Hello YouTube. Today I've got the Squier Classic Vibe Series 70's Jaguar to show all of you. As you can see, it's a absolutely amazing looking guitar. I'm a huge fan of binding and block inlays, so this ticked a lot of boxes for me aesthetically, so I knew I had to get my hands on one just because of that really. But yeah, I'll go through today some of the pros and cons I've had while using this guitar. I've had it for about a week and a half now, and I've kind of been holding off making a video because I wanted to really get some good hands-on time with it and yeah, put it through its paces. So here's the thoughts that I've come up with after my week or so experimenting and playing around with it. Firstly, I'll start off with the negatives because I did come into a couple of things which I think are important to kind of consider if you're in the market for one of these. So the first and foremost thing which disappointed me was the fretwork. I know a lot of people are kind of bashing on the narrow tall frets just because they're narrow tall frets, but I don't have a problem with that, with the actual profile of the frets. The problem I had with it was that the frets weren't finished well and seating was terrible on them. I actually had to go through and reseat probably a good eight to 10 frets. Can't really remember off the top of my head there, but that's how many I had to reseat. And even with reseating them properly, I still had quite a few frets sitting proud. What I actually had to do was a full fret dress, including leveling, crowning, and polishing and all that fun stuff. To me, this was a big deal because no guitar should come straight from the shop needing a fret level, and dressing and whatnot. That costs money. I know everything costs money, but like, yeah, I guess it can be reasonable to expect that you may need to do a setup on it, but if you have to go take your guitar to the tech straight away or your luthier and get them to get the frets sorted out, that's an extra. In Australia, I know the going rate is about $200 to get a good fret leveling and dressing. So like, yeah, that's a lot of money to have to spend straight off the bat. The second issue I ran into fairly quickly was the nut. I know it's a bone nut and that's good and everything, but the problem with my one was it wasn't finished very well at all. There was deep gouges and scratches still in it, and also the action of the nut was way off. The low E string in particular was sitting very, very high as to what it should be, so I had to go and fix the action of it and then kind of fix the finish of the nut, so to speak. So that again is something that you shouldn't have to do on a brand new guitar, especially, I know this is a Squier, but this is one of the upper end Squier models, so you kind of come to expect a bit better than that. The third issue I had with the guitar was, I don't know if it was from the factory or from the shop that I bought it from, but the neck had been shimmed horribly. I noticed a gap between the neck and the body of the guitar, so I popped the neck off to have a look, and to my complete shock and horror, I saw two pieces of coarse sandpaper sitting on what appeared to be some kind of a tape, not even at the heel, the base of the heel of the neck, just kind of at random positions as some kind of obscure attempt to shim the neck. This is not how you shim a neck, and you kind of expect better quality control than that. So I took that out straight away. So that's something to also be aware of if you're going to buy this guitar. Check the neck pocket straight away. I'd definitely advise that. So now currently I've got that replaced with a 1/2 degree shim from StuMac, which is a full neck heel shim. So you get good contact between the neck and the body of the guitar for all that kind of vibration transference and sustained resonance and all that good stuff. Okay, so that's the bad stuff, and I just wanted to get that out of the way first because there are a lot of good things about this guitar. I've been very impressed with everything else apart from those issues, which I will also say are fixable issues. It's not like you'll get this guitar and you won't be able to make it play really well without a bit of TLC, and who knows, maybe I just scored the lemon. So like, don't take my word for it fully. The best thing to do is kind of try it out in store before you buy it and suss all of the setup and everything out before. Of course, I didn't have the opportunity to really do that because I actually pre-ordered this guitar, and this is the one that came to me, and they kind of just gave me it in the box and said, here you go. Getting into the good stuff, again, we'll go to the nut. Even though it was finished poorly and it wasn't at the right kind of action that you'd expect to be acceptable for playing the guitar, it is bone, and that is a very big plus in my opinion, because it's a lot harder than your synthetic bone, aka your plastic nut, which, to be frank, I just do not like them at all, and I always swap them out on my own guitars. And at least I didn't have to pull a plastic nut out and then replace it with a bone one myself. Second thing I really like about this Jaguar, say compared to other Jaguars that come in the market these days, is I'm really impressed with the bridge on this thing. 9.5-inch radius, so no problems with it lining up with your 9.5-inch fretboard. The saddles are really nicely machined on this one, but the thing I'm most happy about is the lips on either side of the saddles are low enough to allow the strings to pass over without touching them, which is a big issue for a lot of people. A lot of people wonder why their bridge is buzzing and stuff, and you'll go and you'll find out that the string is actually touching the bridge on other points apart from the saddle, which is a big no-no, and that's going to cause you problems for your tuning stability and stuff, especially if you're going to be using the trem a lot. So yeah, I love that the bridge allows the strings to pass over without touching anything but the saddle at an acceptable height, especially if you're going to be shimming the neck. That can kind of be a problem when you have to raise the bridge a bit. You can kind of run into problems where you hit like an intonation screw or something like that at the back here, so you end up flipping the bridge around and stuff like that. You don't have to do that with this, I've found. The only thing I did have to do is cut down the intonation screw on the low E saddle because it was touching the string, but again, that's no big deal, and that's something you kind of come to expect to have to do on quite a lot of guitars using Mustang or Jaguar style vintage bridges. So yeah, apart from having to cut one saddle, the bridge is solid. So I even whacked a staytrem bridge that I have spare on here just to kind of compare which was better, if it was worth upgrading, and I didn't actually find that the staytrem performed any better than this bridge. So yeah, if you're thinking about going mastery or whatever, sure, they're a great bridge, but I wouldn't recommend using it for this guitar because you'll end up paying close to the value of this guitar for the new bridge anyway, and you won't get that much more benefit from having one of those bridges. These ones perform fine, especially after being set up properly. Okay, another good point. I love these pickups. I will open up the guitar in a bit and kind of get a resistance reading. I know you guys love all that good stuff, so I'll dive into that later, but they are Alnico. Guessing they're an Alnico 5, if I had to guess. There isn't a lot of information out there about them, but they sound awesome. Have had no problems with them so far. Okay. So as you can see, they're alpha pots, 1 meg, as I suspected they would be, the same as the VM range. Not really too much you'd have to replace here electronically. I mean, you could always go CTS and vintage cloth wire and all that cool vintage correct stuff if you want, but I don't think it's necessary. This stuff all works fine. The only thing I would do is maybe add a treble bleed on the volume pot here, because it really, as soon as you start winding it, you just lose all treble, so it could really benefit from that. Okay, so I've got the pickups out and I'm going to be measuring it when you can follow along with me at home using my multimeter. So let's see what kind of readings we get. This is the hot and ground wire of the bridge pickup I'll be reading. So okay, so I know that because my fingers are kind of touching the leads at the end here, I'll be maybe changing the reading slightly, but we're getting about 11.343 or 35K, so fairly hot for a bridge pickup. So let's see what we get with the neck pickup here, doing the same thing. There we go. Okay, so for the neck pickup, we're getting 5.96K. So okay. Also the tuners, a lot of people have been complaining about the tuners, but you know what, I like them. They're the vintage style, which is the vintage style Cluson, that is, which is what I really like on these guitars. They work fine, especially if you've got the action on the nut sorted out. Suspect a lot of people will be having problems with them because of the action there. Really an underrated part of your setup is the action and finish of your nuts. So make sure that that's correct first before you go replacing tuners and stuff like that to get better tuning stability. But most importantly, the thing I want to talk about is the finish of the guitar and the aesthetics, which I love. As I said before, a huge fan of binding and block inlays, and the work done from the factory here is pretty much flawless on my guitar. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. It looks a lot more expensive than what it is, which is always nice. And also I love the color combos. I mean, you've got, apart from the black one here, which was my favorite, and I had to grab that because I don't have a black Jag. I have Sunburst and I have Surf Green, which is the other colors available, so I didn't want to kind of double up. But yeah, really, really well done. I really love this finish. I wouldn't change anything aesthetically to this guitar. I know a lot of people won't like the 70s style decal at the top there, but you know what, I like it. Something different, which is always good. And you know what, it's kind of the least concern what the headstock logo looks like to me compared to how the guitar plays and the overall look and feel of the guitar. Okay, I'm going to talk about ergonomics of the guitar. It's really nicely made. I really do enjoy the profile of the neck. It has a C neck, but this one kind of feels very similar to my Japanese Fender Jaguar C neck. I know I've had a couple where it's had a really slim neck, but this is a more chunky C, which is what my Japanese Jag has. And yeah, I really like it. It feels comfortable straight away. I can play anywhere on the neck with ease. The body, the contours are what you'd expect. You got your belly cut, forearm contour. I feel, again, really comfortable. The Jag is the most comfortable guitar for me, so yeah, no issues there. The only thing I don't like ergonomically is the switching. I know this is the same on all Jaguars, but they have the bout here with the switches for neck pickup, bridge pickup, and your strangle switch or bass cut. I'm not a fan of having separate switches for each pickup, so that's probably something I'll change. I'll probably put a 3-way in there like I usually do with my Jags, just for ergonomics. But yeah, if you like the traditional Jag setup, that's not going to be an issue for you. Finally, talking about the trem, it comes with your standard Squier style trem with no lock on it. That doesn't worry me. It might worry you, I don't know, but I never end up using the lock, and so yeah, it's fine. As long as it has a good spring and the arm feels comfortable, it's all good to go. I've had no problems with the tuning stability using this, and as I said, I've been using this for over a week, and I've kind of been giving it a bit of punishment, especially on the trem, and I've had no problems, so that's a really positive thing to note. So overall, I know it has some issues, one of which was a pretty big issue, needing to get a fret level, but overall I really like this guitar, and it's quickly become one of my favorites. As I said, I've been playing it for a week, and in that time I've only really picked up my other guitars to play maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's from playing maybe 2 hours a day. So yeah, it definitely has earned its place in my rotation, and the only things that I'm really going to change on this is, as I said before, modding it with a 3-way toggle switch, and maybe I'll use that extra middle switch here as a series parallel switch just to get some extra switching options out of it. But other than that, it has been a completely solid guitar, and yeah, don't get all discouraged because I said, oh, my guitar needed to be fret leveled and dressed. Make sure you go and try a guitar first, because who knows, as I said, I could have been the most unlucky guy in the world and got the lemon kind of QC passed guitar, who knows. So yeah, that's my initial thoughts on this guitar. I may do more videos in the future updating them as I get more playtime on this guitar. So yeah, I know a lot of people are going to be going, oh, so is it good or is it bad? Overall, I think it's good, okay? I really love this guitar, and I am going to keep it, which is the most kind of testament thing. I'm not usually very attached to guitars. I buy and sell a lot, but this one I'm going to be keeping for sure and will become a staple in what I use for recording and band stuff and whatnot. So thanks for watching, and I hope you gleaned some information you might think is useful.